stuck in a system through no fault of their own.
The experiences that I experienced at the group home, I wouldn't wish it on any child.
I entered the system of care when I was 14.
And then entering adulthood without a family to help guide them during some of the most critical years of their lives.
On one hand, you're kind of like, all right, I'm about to be 18, I'm about to be an adult, I can do whatever I want, I'm excited. But then you're also like, okay, I'm about to be 18, they're gonna consider me an adult. I have no idea what I'm doing. And no one's taught me anything. What am I supposed to do?
Every year, hundreds of Florida teenagers age out of foster care, and they're immediately at risk.
I've had the opportunity to work in the juvenile justice system. I've had a chance to work in the child welfare system as well. And one of the things I know is that without proper adult guidance, most of them are probably going to go into the life of crime and be able to get themselves in trouble.
In this 9 Family Connection special report, we're highlighting the challenges, the local organizations stepping up to bridge the gaps, and what all of us can do to help a population so often forgotten.
For you, if not for this place, where would you be?
Most likely homeless or at a shelter, honestly.
This is Out of Time, a focus on Florida's aged out foster youth. Imagine turning 18 and immediately becoming homeless. That's the reality for thousands of teens aging out of foster care across the country every single year. Thanks for being here for this important 9 Family Connection special. I'm Carla Ray. Over the next 30 minutes, you'll meet some of the young adults with lived experience of emancipating out of Florida's foster care system, living right here in our community, and the disruptors working to break what statistics show is often a cycle of homelessness, joblessness, and sadly, a life in the criminal justice or welfare system. But first, I want to break down the numbers. Nationwide, around 20,000 children will age out of the foster care system each year. In Florida, about 6% of kids exiting our system will never be placed with a permanent family or guardian. In 2021, that was 750 young adults, and the odds are against them. Research shows only 1 out of every 2 foster kids who age out of the system will have gainful employment by age 24, and there is a less than 3% chance for children who've aged out of the foster care system to ever earn a college degree. The potential to repeat the patterns that led to them being in the system is greater too. It's estimated that 7 out of 10 girls who age out of the foster care system will become pregnant before turning 21. It's important to remember those aren't just numbers, they're real people, some still in high school when they're forced out of a foster or group home on their 18th birthday. Some can't even remember a time when they weren't somehow part of Florida's child welfare system.
I got taken away from my biological parents at 3, and that's when I was placed into foster care.
Others entered as teenagers, making them even less likely to find permanent adoptive placement.
I entered the system of care when I was 14.
Though they all have different stories, those who age out or emancipate from foster care face similar challenges.
Do you think that this is like a forgotten population?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of us have just kind of been like thrown into like the wind.
3 of the 4 young adults you'll meet in this next half hour faced or lived through homelessness.
It came to a point where I was about to be homeless.
First, I was homeless. I was in St. Cloud, and I was just walking aimlessly for a while.
Would that have been a reality for you, potentially homelessness?
Potentially.
Yeah.
But even with somewhere to live, instability out of the child's control can take a toll that results in a life of facing setbacks.
Because of the situations prior to entering the system of care, I had missed a good majority of the first semester of my freshman year of high school, which meant once I transitioned and I had a more stable living situation in my group home placement, I had a lot of catching up to do.
Going to school without support that so many of us take for granted, then turning 18 and facing the real world alone.
Did you know how to fill out a job application?
Absolutely no. Nope. I couldn't tell you how to fill. I didn't even know how to even ask for one. And I didn't know how to do any of my doctor's appointments. They would tell me that I would have to call these people. I would have to call my insurance, my Medicaid insurance. And then those people would tell me who to go to for such and such and such items that I need to get checked out. I had no idea how to do that. I didn't even know what my insurance number was. No one gave me a card, nothing. They didn't give me any of my paperwork as well after I turned 18. They were just like, all right, good luck.
But even with what's been stacked against them, these young men and women are working in their own ways to make a difference for kids still in the system, vowing to make sure the circumstances of their childhood, out of their control, doesn't define them.
For me, it motivated me because I understood that, it's part of life. Like, there are plenty of, that's kind of a big success story. Understanding that you have no one, but you're still going to go out and get it yourself. That's what motivated me to actually want to do something with my life.
So where do these young adults go when they're forced from a foster care or group home on their 18th birthday? We're digging into the limited number of beds available in transitional housing and the challenges providers face with little to no public funding to help. That's next.
The minute they turn 18, their whole world changes. They wake up that morning and they can no longer live in the place that they were. They have to put everything that they own into a suitcase and sometimes even to a garbage bag, and they have to leave the place that they're in and come somewhere new.
Welcome back to Out of Time, a focus on Florida's aged-out foster youth. So far, we've told you how the odds are stacked against the more than 700 teens who age out of Florida's foster care system each year, making them far less likely to find gainful employment or ever to go to college. Some become instantly homeless on their 18th birthday. There are organizations in our community working to break that cycle, but they've got a tough road too. Jay Singleton has experienced almost every side of the child welfare system: foster care, group home placement, even an attempted reunification with his birth mother.
That was like the hardest part of my life. She was always gone. And I had to basically kind of raise myself and, be a young adult and kind of hit the 18 switch on a little bit earlier than a lot of other kids.
So by the time he turned 18, he was determined to change the next chapter of his story.
I was always motivated to make money, get a job. I wanted my own independence a lot faster, being around the fact that I was always surrounded by people and, never really had anything to myself or, lacked a lot of stuff. So the independence felt really, really good. And when I was able to be on my own, I tried to work for everything that I have and really just try to go as far as I could, but there was still things that I lacked, that the basic knowledge that I didn't have.
Like most 18-year-olds, he stumbled, but unlike many of his peers, he had to do so without support.
It came to a point where I was about to be homeless, but I reached out to a very close family member of mine and they put me onto this place, and I really like it here.
He's living in one of the 16 rooms at the Village in Seminole County, which provides transitional housing for homeless or foster youth between the ages of 18 and 24. Chief Operating Officer Marcy Dirth says this is one of the only facilities in the entire state that serves this specific population.
For those of us that work in the field, this is an unfortunate reality, that there aren't enough programs or systems in place to help these kids when they do age out. I think for the general community, I think the large majority of folks believe that there are those things in place, and the frank reality is there's not enough available.
For every opening here, there are an average of 14 applications, and with no state or other government support, all of the building maintenance, staff salaries, and programming are paid for through community partnerships and fundraising.
There are other states in the country that have dedicated funding for this age group, and even for youth that are aging out of care. Florida just isn't currently doing that.
So with that, how difficult is it to even know what kind of programming to offer? What is expected if there's no sort of support or regulation from the state?
So we spend a lot of time talking to the young people that we serve, asking them and having them guide us on what they need. A lot of our programming really is surrounded on what they need at that time. We try to really meet them where they're at.
About 30 minutes away across the Orange County line, it's the same story at the Fain House.
Coming into a house where you have to adapt from being the only person in the house to having multiple people, and people of different personalities, different backgrounds, different traumas.
Joy Washington has been adapting her entire life. First pulled from her biological parents at 3, then put back into the foster care system at 16.
What is that like to be just kind of facing the world alone at such a young age?
For me, it motivated me because I understood that, it's part of life. Like there are plenty of, that's kind of a big success story. Understanding that you have no one, but you're still going to go out and get it yourself. That's what motivated me to actually want to do something with my life.
Joy is working, going to school at Valencia, and has a goal of becoming a professional ballet dancer and attorney. Each of the 10 adults living at the Fain House is required to be going to school and working, but it's not easy.
See, that's one of the things that is super unique about this population is that they're not in foster care because of something that they did. They're in foster care because of something that a caring adult did to them. And so being able to navigate past that is probably 99% of the problems.
Ray Gaines is the director of the program, which provides transitional housing and life skills for up to 2 years. He points out many of these young adults have never even filled out a job application before, and some don't know how to drive.
It feels like society expects a lot out of them without actually helping them get there.
If we're being honest, so did I. And you wouldn't realize it until you work with this population of how much support they need because they don't know what they don't know. For me, when they walk out here, people, we assume that they're going to come in here and get a job, go to school, when their whole life has been turmoil. Their whole life has been trying to figure it out. So what we try to do is just trying to gradually let them take their time, find a footing.
Like the Village, the Fain House relies on private funding and donations. Former NFL center and founder Jeff Fain, an adoptee himself, says it's about breaking generational cycles and battling public perception.
This is an 18-year-old. It's an adult. They should be okay. But no, they're not. Because a lot of them are really just looking to kind of get their head above water. It's just really where they are at that point in their lives.
Had you been exposed to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That could have easily been my life.
Both Jay and Joy told me without those transitional homes, they would be facing homelessness. Even though facilities like these don't have state funding, state law can make a huge difference in the lives of those transitioning out of foster care. Coming up, how those with lived experience are helping to shape those laws, and the help from one of the nation's largest universities to make sure foster youth succeed as students. When lawmakers head to Tallahassee each year to pass new laws for our state, they're followed by lobbyists advocating on behalf of industries and institutions. So who advocates on behalf of those aging out of the system with no family support? We learned it's those who've walked the very same path, using their lived experience to help shape new legislation. And from the state capitol to one of the nation's largest universities right here in our backyard, we took a look at the support in place on UCF's campus for those navigating college on their own. Even though he hasn't decided on his major at the University of Central Florida just yet, Kyle Johnson feels in control of his educational destiny. It's a much different story than about a decade ago when he entered the foster care system as a teen.
Because of the situations prior to entering the system of care, I had missed a good majority of the first semester of my freshman year of high school, which meant once I transitioned and I had a more stable living situation in my group home placement, I had a lot of catching up to do.
He lived in that group home setting for 2 years, but just before he would age out of the system, his friend's family stepped in and applied for permanent guardianship. He still lives with them today.
I was on the course of aging out from my group home, so I probably would have just been put with whatever available supports they could offer me to find my own independent housing, and I would have been independently responsible for all of my finances, bills, attending school, working, all of that, all by myself.
Having that support has freed him up to help those who aren't as fortunate. Kyle is the statewide chair of Florida Youth Shine, a program for those ages 13 to 26 with lived experience in foster care or homelessness, driving change at the state level. The group works to ensure their peers are considered when lawmakers draft legislation in Tallahassee.
It's really critical to have that lived experience being put into the thought behind the policies that affect young people.
That's led to several state state laws in recent years, including the Normalcy Law, which allows foster care youth to participate in things like sports, clubs, even having sleepovers with friends. Extending foster care to age 21 for those who want to continue to receive support while becoming independent adults. And after 5 years of advocating, lawmakers finally passed legislation that requires foster youth to be informed about their rights in an age-appropriate way every 6 months.
When you're talking to policymakers and just the general public, are people surprised at what they don't necessarily know about what it's like to be in the system?
I mean, a lot of the time, yeah, because I mean, we don't really talk about foster care. No one really talks about it. If I hadn't been in the system of care, I wouldn't really know what foster care was like, what supports they get, what they don't get. I know this because of my experience and background with being in foster care.
Across campus from where we met up with Kyle, the university's student care services team is working to bridge the gap too.
No student should arrive on campus feeling like they don't have a support system after aging out of the foster care system. So it's very important for us to provide that support and the necessary resources that those students need to be successful.
Assistant Director Tammy Nadeau oversees the Night Alliance Network. She says right now there are about 250 students who identify as homeless or former foster youth who are assigned peer mentors to help connect them with resources on campus and off.
Coming to college is a huge milestone. All students want to feel that they are equipped to come to campus, but it's like, for example, a student shared with me running the same race with a different start, right? They all got in, they're all pursuing the same degree, but some students have an advantage over others because of the financial support that they are able to receive from family members or the funds that they have. Whereas
Just emotional support,
well-being support.
Go do a load of laundry at mom and dad's, so you don't have that option.
Absolutely.
From campus to the Capitol, the key for both sets of advocates is creating community.
Just hope that one day, we can look back on how things were and the differences that our work did and, just have something to really be proud of in the difference that we're making in our young people's lives.
And you can make a difference too, even if you aren't in a position to foster or adopt. Still to come, how photography and a Facebook post looking for a free fan led to a new way any of us can help those who've aged out. By now, we hope you have a better idea of the reality of what happens when young adults age out of foster care in Florida, the limited resources available to help them, and those working to advocate on their behalf. But this is something that takes all of us to raise awareness and step up. 9 Family Connection has been following one local family for years who shows that everyone can do something. Samantha Zuccarello hasn't had an easy life. Abandoned by her mother at age 5 and emancipated from foster care at age 18, she entered adulthood having never done a load of laundry, filled out a job application, or driven a car.
Does it just seem unrealistic that an 18-year-old who hasn't had family support would know how to do any of these things?
I'm sorry. It was just, it's so frustrating to just, it was scary. Like, they just let me out. They didn't make sure I had anything that I needed with me. So they just basically told you good luck.
Though she hasn't had much of that in her life, she was lucky enough to meet Misty Mioto along the way.
Also made a huge impact on my life.
Misty is the executive director of the Heart Gallery of Central Florida, which photographs children available for adoption to help increase their chances of finding a forever home. She's adopted 3 siblings from Florida's foster care system and unofficially adopted their oldest sister.
I see so many loving people that have all these gifts and talents that they want to share with the foster kids in their community, but they just don't know how to access them.
It was that spirit of working as a conduit that led to a new way to help young men and women like Samantha, who during COVID was living in a friend's laundry room without air conditioning, when she made a call to her friend Misty.
So she asked me for a fan. And my heart was just like, oh my goodness, she needs so much more than a fan, and all she's asking for is a fan. I can't imagine in the heat of summer in July with the dryer going, how hot that laundry room must be. So I got on Facebook and I just put a request out there to some of my Facebook friends, and within 15 minutes, I requested a bed, blankets, like a bunch of different things that I knew she needed, and within 15 minutes everything was sponsored.
That led to more donations to help more young people furnish apartments and has evolved into a new nonprofit, Foster Youth America. From the group's mission statement, bridging the gap between our children, those that care for them, and their communities.
Everyone can do something. If you can't adopt, you can foster. If you can't foster, you can mentor. If you can't mentor, you can volunteer. And if you can't volunteer, you can donate. So there's definitely something everyone can do.
And though there's no paperwork to prove it, it's clear Samantha does have a forever family right here.
I learned that not everybody is out to get me. Like, the world isn't against me. I learned that I can confide in some that truly want to help. Like, they just truly want to see you succeed. They just want to provide a little helping hand, and that helped me trust in people again.
Thank you for watching Out of Time, a focus on Florida's aged out foster youth. We've put more resources for you to get involved as a mentor, volunteer, donor, or even to foster or adopt on our website. Just go to 9family.com.